There we go. Hey, YouTube. I got the special guest that I've been waiting probably 5 years to get on my channel. RDAP Dan is in the house, guys. My channel is because of RDAP Dan. Look, if you need help getting through pretrial and getting through prison and getting out and all that, RDAP Dan helped me so much. In the beginning, I had no money to hire him, and he still took my phone calls. That's why I take your phone calls today, guys. But if you need a prison consultant to get you through the RDAP, the letters to the judge, the whole process of your PSR, everything, the only guy I would hire is RDAP Dan. He's the only guy that I recommend out there is RDAP Dan. Forget all the other guys, but RDAP Dan helped me for free. Here it is. 5 years later, I've been to prison. I'm out. I got a channel, and he answered the phone today. So I'm going to give you RDAP Dan. Here he is.
What's going on, Sean? Thank you very much. It's long overdue. Has it been 5 years already? Wow.
Yeah. I went in 2017, but I started calling you around 2015 or 16.
Well, time sure does fly. It seems like actually this month coming up on the I think it's the 23rd of October. That will be my release date from federal prison. October 23rd, 2016 was the day I got released.
Wow. Well, because of you, Dan, I mean, I got this channel. It's booming. Like I just said, I probably had 300 or 400 people call me. My number's up there. I only get 3 or 4 calls a day. It's funny how God won't, you would think, don't put your phone number on YouTube. What are you, crazy? But in our little niche, Dan, God just gives me just enough. I've had days where 8 people call me, and it's kind of crazy, but no trolls, really. I don't know. It's kind of funny that way. When you started out and you put your number up there, I mean, how do you handle the phone calls?
It was kind of the same, there wasn't really a whole lot of trolls, and I hate that word. I think of South Park every time I hear it, but I think it's because the content that we put out, that I was putting out, that you're putting out now, unless you're going to federal prison, you're probably not going to stumble across our channel. It's not like it's a purely entertainment channel. I've had others tell me, oh, you need to do different content. This way you can compete with some of the, the after prison shows. And that's just never been, I never really did this to start a business. It just kind of grew into that organically.
Kind of happened that way. I know Joe from the After Prison Show. I've been watching you on Tommy's show. What is it, MCSC, whatever, the guy there in Florida. I've been watching you on him. I remember you were talking about Joe from the After Prison Show. I guess he started off with the right intent, but now, like, you tried to give him the rights to afterprisonshow.com, and he wouldn't do it because you asked him to come on your channel, his channel, and something like that.
Yeah, I own the domain afterprisonshow.com, and I was trying to work something out with Joe to promote my channel, basically to put me in front of more people, and he initially had intent to help people. I think he put me on one time, and it actually generated a couple clients that needed help, that were going through the same nasty situation that you and I were going through, where you have more questions and answers, and you really just want to be able to have somebody not just be able to tell you it's going to be okay, but somebody that can kind of show you how you can mitigate this to where you're not only going to understand where you're going, but what can you be doing right now before you go that could potentially, shorten a prison sentence. And that is kind of what I was trying to do with Joe. But for him, it turned into, it became such a fucking money nightmare that he was so concerned about the amount of money he could make off of promoting this, that it just really put a bad taste in my mouth, because we would have had to adjust prices specifically to accommodate what he was trying to do. So I decided to keep afterprisonshow.com, and it now forwards to my YouTube channel. So sorry, Joe.
There you go. I've reached out to those big channels now. The only guy who ever got back to me was Matt Cox, and I just did an interview with him like a month ago. And he was a stand-up guy. I was amazed. He called me. We talked on the phone. I didn't know he was. I was really impressed. He's a real dude. I know you met him in person.
Yeah, I did. I got lucky. I got to meet Matt in person. I actually just saw him. He was just here over at Tommy's studio in Palm Beach. And Tommy's normal guy that does the, Tommy's got the whole Joe Rogan setup back there. And he's got an actual guy that presses all the magic buttons where I'm sitting here doing it all myself. But I went in to help Tommy. I was the last interview you'll see with Matt Cox. I was the engineer on that one.
Okay. So Dan, before I want to, give you a chance to tell everybody who you are, what you do and all that. But I need to personally thank you for the phone calls, picking up the phone. So guys, if you don't know, I didn't have any money going to prison. Dan passed the hat for me on his channel. And, there'd be $50 put on my books, $80 put on my books. I needed to get my driver's license renewed and my social security card. It was $31 for the license and I think $20 for the social security. So I emailed Dan. He next thing you know, he put the money on my books. My case manager took that money. I got my driver's license renewed, all thanks to you, Dan. I mean, the emails and Jenny Good emailing me and all you guys, because when I got to prison, man, you were my only outreach to the real world. I had some cousins and aunts, but they didn't really. You were my, you're my, you know what I mean? My, I don't know, my umbilical cord to the real world, and every time I'd email you and email me back. You don't know how much you helped me get through that whole prison process, Dan. I mean, God bless you. You're I don't know, God's working through you, through me. And I'm not a Jesus guy. Okay. I didn't turn into a Bible thumper, but I did find some kind of a God in prison. And Dan, he's working in you. I mean, I just need to personally thank you. Because Dan, you got me through it. You really did. So thank you.
Well, you're welcome, man. And it's awesome to see you growing this Club Fed channel and seeing what you're doing with it. And I do appreciate the kind words, Sean. I remember talking to you a few times before you went, and I remember you were really struggling with your own personal demons and your addiction, and not having a giant level of family support, or at least not knowing what that was going to look like. And we have quite a few clients that are from different walks of life. We have. And when I say millionaire clients, we have some of the wealthiest individuals you could imagine. Some of them are celebrities. Some of them you've seen recently on TV when it comes to the college admin scandal. And then we have other clients that, if $1,000 to them might as well be $1 million. So we've really tried to kind of find a mediocre area to where, obviously there's certain services we can't do for free, but in your situation, it was really just kind of, being a voice for you. And when you reached out to me from inside a prison, when you're trying to get your license back, and we've done this for a few times for people where we would run, a fundraiser on our channel where we would take donations, and every one of those donations is never goes into our pocket. It's funny. If you saw some of the emails we receive where we know you're pocketing this money, Dan, you're just, you haven't changed. You're out there running cons and scams, and the bad comes with the good. I learned to shrug that stuff off and not let it bother me, because then we'll have success stories like Sean, who just by doing the right thing by you has given you an idea, and you're sitting here running with it. And I'm happy you're giving me all of the gratitude and all the respect in the world, but you're the one that gets up every day and decides to do the right thing and not fall back to old ways. And you're choosing to do the things that might be hard. I'm sure you've got your hard days too, where, you're on YouTube and you're giving people good advice, and there might be nights where you're laying in bed going, fuck, I think I need to take some of my own advice again before I make a mistake.
Oh yeah.
But this kind of stuff that we do, Sean, it's like a daily reminder. It's like working any other program, where it's any type of 12-step program is for me, the YouTube channel and creating RDAP Dan and helping people. That was kind of a byproduct of sharing my story, because it helped stay fresh in my mind of what I went through and how many mistakes I made, and how I ultimately put myself in prison. I couldn't blame anybody else, but now sharing my story and doing what I do, it's like a daily reminder of how easy it is to make a mistake and go right back. So even though you give me all the credit in the world, you very easily could put down that microphone and go pick up a bottle, and boom, it would just be off to the races like that. So I give you a big fucking high five, Sean, for doing what you got to do just to keep your everyday going in the right direction.
No, thank you. I got a year left on probation, and I have a no alcohol clause because I went overboard on my PSR. You know how you're supposed to put you have an alcohol and drug problem. I mean, I
Right.
put down that I drink 5 gallons of wine a day. I do, 8 ball of meth a day. I went overboard. And I mean, I had a drug problem and alcohol, but I exaggerated so much that now I'm paying the price, because if I just have a shot of whiskey, I go back to prison. It's a clause. Most people they can drink, but not to excess.
Right.
No, not with me. So they give me an 80-hour alcohol test. So that means if I had a drink 3.5 days ago, it shows up in my urine and I go right back to prison. And my probation officer said, I'm not giving you a second chance. You went through 2 drug programs on pretrial. You did the RDAP. And then I had a clause where I had to do another drug program when I got out of prison, which I did in 90 days. So that's 4 programs, right? After, and serving my time. And now if I have a shot of whiskey, I go back to prison. So don't go overboard on your PSRs, guys.
Yeah, that's probably one of the, those of you that are watching right now that are thinking to yourself, I really want to get in this program and I really want to knock this year off my sentence. Sean's speaking the gospel right now is you don't need to overdo your pre-sentence report. As a matter of fact, I would highly, highly recommend not to lie or stretch at all on your PSR, because it can, in many times, come back to haunt you. You start getting questioned and drilled in one of these community groups within the program. And if, like Sean said, he put on there that he was, doing an 8 ball of meth on a daily basis. If you don't have stories and sometimes to back this stuff up, it can come across that you manipulated the program to get in. And once you get labeled a manipulator in RDAP, holy moly, it's an uphill battle from there. So, if you've got an alcohol problem or a marijuana problem or a prescription pill problem, even if it's a prescription you're prescribed, if it's prescriptions like Schedule II narcotics, things like that, even if it's your prescription you're supposed to be taking, doesn't mean that you haven't developed a mental or chemical or physical addiction to this. And unless you're a mental health or a chemical dependency professional, you're probably not in any place to really to diagnose yourself. So just be open, honest when you do that pre-sentence report. If you're not sure, reach out to somebody like Sean or myself, and we can give you some advice as a direction to go without putting yourself or ourselves in any danger of, going back to the federal prison system.
Right. So it may be a little too late to introduce you, but if you've watched the video this far, I know a lot of you guys are going to know who RDAP Dan is. Those of you who don't. So RDAP Dan is a man who got indicted, went on pretrial, went to federal prison. He did Coleman low security. He got out of prison. He did his probation. He's off probation now. Now he helps people to go through that whole process. And Dan, I got a lot of people calling me about low securities. I only know what goes on in a camp. I hear about things from the lows, from the guys who work their way down. But, maybe you could tell a quick little thing about your story. And then I got people calling me to ask you specifically how to get daily life in Coleman Low.
Sure. So, Coleman Federal Prison it's right outside of Ocala, Florida. It's actually in Coleman. It's kind of central Florida. It's the largest BOP in the United States. It's got a camp, a low, a medium, 2 penitentiaries. The camp used to be for women. Now the camp has been redesignated. It's a men's camp. They do not have RDAP in the camp. So if you're looking to go to Coleman and you're trying to take the residential drug abuse program, it's at the low. It's also, I believe, at one of the penitentiaries, but most of you probably aren't going to the penitentiary. Big difference between a low and a camp. Usually one's got a perimeter fence, one doesn't. So the low has a fence around it. Most camps, unless it's like a specific satellite camp, will not have a fence. There's also something called, you got movement throughout the compound, where in a camp, you've got kind of open movement where from morning to evening minus count time, and, maybe some special things with like COVID going on, it's open, meaning you can go from your dorm to the rec yard, to the library, kind of whatever you want. It's just open door. It's open door policy, going when you want. In a low security, you have 10-minute moves. So if you want to go from like your dorm to the library, at the top of every hour, there's a announcement coming on the speaker, 10-minute move. And you literally got 10 minutes to get your shit together and get to the next spot before the 10-minute move is over. If you're caught in between during a 10-minute move, you can get a shot for being out of bounds, and a shot can create all kinds of problems, from losing programs, losing good time. getting kicked out of RDAP can create problems for a halfway house, early release. So you really want to kind of pay attention to a low versus a camp. Pros and cons real quick. I met a lot of guys like Sean said, he's never spent any time in a low. I've never spent any time in a camp. I just met tons and tons of guys, and most of the guys that came to the low security were people that were removed from a camp for things like cell phones or cigarettes or some kind of a minor infraction. But they all ended up telling me that they kind of preferred the low over the camp just because, at least at Coleman, there was more programs to do. It was a bigger compound. It wasn't as, you didn't have to get a job if you didn't want to have a job, unless, in RDAP, you have to have a job, but it wasn't like you're working 8 hours a day. At the low security in Coleman, you've got about 3,000 inmates, give or take, way more inmates than jobs. So some of the jobs there are just so ridiculous, and they're there just to put a job on a piece of paper. I had a job as a compound weekend sweeper. I'd get up on a Saturday and Sunday morning before breakfast. I'd get my little broom and dustpan and walk around the compound, and I would just kind of sweep the sun off the sidewalk for 10, 15 minutes, go eat breakfast. Lieutenant would sign off on it, and I was done. I would do that 2 days a week. And the rest of the time was time that I devoted to myself, which was, educating myself, taking classes, RDAP, positive thinking. I was engaging in all types of community groups. I used every moment possible that I was in prison to reassure that there was a less likelihood that I was going to return. And I almost had a smile on my face every single day, which is ultimately what led to my 42-month prison sentence, how I was able to only serve 13 months out of that 42 months in prison. So I really did kind of slice up the time about as good as you can get.
So I know you got 11 months halfway house. I don't know how the hell you did that. You're the only guy I ever heard of got 11 months halfway house. I don't know what your secret is.
That's what they hire me for, Sean. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, don't tell them. Don't tell them.
Part of it could have been luck. It could have been timing. I did get denied the first time. I was only given 6 months for RDAP. Then when I reached out myself to try to get additional halfway house, I was denied. So I ended up using a service similar to mine while I was in prison to have somebody who's no longer in the business. They reached out. They did exactly what we do now, where it's reaching out to your local congressional representative, and also going directly back to your sentencing judge asking for a recommendation. But it's very specific how it was done, worded. You have to work with the family, create reasons as to why it would benefit to have you back home sooner than in a halfway or to sitting in prison. So it doesn't mean it's going to happen for everybody. Some wardens at certain prisons, it doesn't matter if you're Mother Teresa, they're going to give you what they're going to give you. So, one of the biggest fair warnings I would say is if you are looking to hire anybody, a consultant, Sean, myself, make sure you do your own due diligence. And if somebody promises you they can do something, you probably want to have the hairs on the back of your neck stand up, and that should be a red flag. Anybody that can guarantee at least one of these services, the only thing that you should be able to have a guarantee with is the person is going to do exactly what, or attempt to do exactly what it is they say they're going to do, and that they're going to be there and work for you as hard as they say they're going to work for you. Aside from that, promising it to RDAP, extra halfway house time, getting on compassionate release, anybody that can promise you something like that, these are the people that are going to disappear in the end. And that's the reason why you're probably going to prison to begin with, is you're looking for a shortcut.
Yeah, I get phone calls about shortcuts all the time. I get guys that got 2 years and they're nickel and dime, they're trying to get an extra month halfway house. And it gets sometimes it's like, look, man, you're going to get 4 months good time, right? You got the RDAP. I mean, you can't, they want to get there, do RDAP, and then still get a month off and go home. And look, you don't know. You're a short timer. You don't get it, man. You don't know how lucky you are to get a 24-month sentence and qualify for RDAP. But there's still, but do you think, can I get the First Step Act? And if I do this and I do that, I just got to tell people no.
It's because of the lack of information out there and the huge disconnect with criminal defense attorneys. Everybody tells me, I think my attorney's working for the prosecutor, or my attorney's sabotaging me, whether it's a private attorney or an appointed attorney. Unfortunately, that's kind of the norm, and not to take anything away from attorneys, because they have a specific job to do. And I don't think they realize how much of a role this can actually play in kind of knowing who each one of the stakeholders are. You've got, when you're going through this system, if you're brand new into this right now, you kind of look at all of the moving parts and who are the key players in this. you've got your judge, which obviously is the one that's going to make the final decision. You got the prosecutor, who is, no matter how good he speaks of you, he's still going to speak poorly of you. They're not looking to, get you out of jail free. Best case scenario, usually a prosecutor will recommend the low end of the guidelines if you've been cooperating. Then you've got the probation officer conducting the PSR, which is supposed to be, a hands-off third party that's not supposed to have any kind of influence from either side, but they tend to lean towards whatever the prosecuting has led them. Then you've got your attorney, who's one of the stakeholders, who has supposed to have your best interest in hand. And most of the time, the problem is we kind of put all this faith in our attorney, especially when we're hiring them. They're going to drive in on this giant, white horse, and they're going to slay the dragon. And we tend to learn that the guidelines are the guidelines, that there's only so much the attorney can do. Well, the missing stakeholder in all of this is you. You can be your biggest advocate. If you know what your rights are and you know how to hold your attorney accountable. It might frustrate the attorney a little bit. It might kind of, agitate them. But if you know how to hold the attorney accountable, and you know the questions to ask, and you know what you should be expecting, and you know what they should be putting into the pre-sentence report, and you know what they should be putting into a sentencing memorandum as it gets closer to sentencing, it allows you to not have all of these questions and put yourself in the best possible situation to receive the best possible outcome. But the things that you can be doing differently, the types of community involvement, or your personal narratives, your reference letters, prepping for the PSR, these are things that people take for granted because they either think it doesn't matter or they just know nothing about it. And if you think you're going to come in 3 days before sentencing and go hire somebody to write your personal narrative, the judge is going to see that it was turned in 3 days before sentencing. You really have to start thinking about your exit. Your release from prison should really be starting right now. Don't wait till you're there to start thinking about these things.
Yeah, that's so good advice. So guys, I don't know if you heard everything Dan said, but you can always call him RDAP Dan, but a lot of people have no clue what you just said until now. They think they're going to hire the attorney and everything's going to be all right. And I personally think that a court-appointed attorney works just as hard as a paid attorney. That's my opinion. But neither one will answer your phone calls. You want to call up your attorney and ask them what it's like to use the bathroom in a camp, ask them what the meals are going to be like, ask them what the programs are like, ask them what kind of job. They don't really know up till sentencing. They'll get you up to that point. But all those hundreds of little tiny questions that are important to you at the time, your attorney can't answer them. And Dan, you know what I mean? Those little questions, right?
Yeah, I had a client today. That's when I was speaking to you earlier. As soon as I finished up the call, it was a guy that he's all excited, thinks he's going to get an RDAP. It's a drug charge. They dropped the gun. They dropped the gun charge because there was a gun involved, but he still has a 2-level enhancement on his PSR, which meaning so they didn't charge him with the gun, but they're still enhancing his guidelines as the gun is there. So that 2-level enhancement, even without being charged for the gun, that will completely debilitate somebody from getting the time off. They can still do RDAP. They can take the program, but they don't qualify for the sentence reduction. And the attorney was telling him, oh yeah, you're good, because the attorney wasn't lying to him. It's just, this information is, unfortunately, it's not readily available unless you really, really, really know where you're looking. So having somebody that can kind of fly you through this, another big one, you were talking earlier, Sean, about people that get like a 24-month prison sentence. And for those of you that don't have information or you want more questions about RDAP, feel free to hop over and maybe Sean will post it in the link to this video.
Yeah, I'm going to put links to your website, Dan, and your phone number, everything up on this video. Yeah, I will advertise for you.
Mention Sean's name and we'll throw you a nice little discount on there.
There you go.
On our website over at federalprisontime.com, there's a RDAP Q&A section. And on the RDAP Q&A section, it will tell you like how much time you can get off or based on your sentence. So if you have a 24-month sentence, that's the minimum requirement to qualify for RDAP. That doesn't mean being sentenced to 24 months. That means when you enter into RDAP, you have to have 24 months left. So let's say you got sentenced to 24 months, you're waiting to get designated, you find out you're going to Coleman Low. You're like, great, Coleman's got RDAP, 24 months. I'm going to get in there, my good time, plus I'm going to get 6 months off of the program. Boom, boom, boom. Well, the problem is when you get to Coleman, RDAP doesn't necessarily start the next day. For all you know, RDAP could have started 2 days ago. You get to the program and now RDAP doesn't start for 2 months. Well, now that's going to push you outside of the window.
Plus you got to quarantine for a couple of weeks too.
And you got to quarantine for a couple of weeks. So part of part of what we do for our clients is if you were sentenced to a 24-month sentence, and once we find out where you're going, we would then contact that prison either through contacts we have in the prison or through contacts that work at the prison, find out when the next RDAP class is starting and coordinate that with your self-surrender date. And if it doesn't match up with the date the judge already gave you, we would then create a narrative that would go to your attorney, that your attorney would file as a motion to request that the judge change your self-surrender date to line up with the drug treatment program, which I would say 99% of the time we've been successful for.
Especially since the judge recommends RDAP, he should be working with you, right?
Yes. And in almost all cases, if you have a drug problem, the court is usually going to be very accommodating to at least appearing to want to help you with your drug program or with your drug issue. So explaining this to a judge that you're changing your self-surrender date or requesting to change your self-surrender date so that you can take benefit of the program, not just the time off, but the time off is great. I'm not going to lie. Everybody wants to take RDAP for the time off.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But I can tell you when I got into RDAP, my only reason was to get the time off. I didn't think there was a fucking thing this program could do for me. And a few months into the program, after getting pulled up day after day and thinking I had it all figured out, it wasn't until midway through I had to realize that I'm not nearly as smart and as clever as I thought I was this entire time. And I've either got to take this program serious, swallow the Kool-Aid, and actually go through it with open eyes and open ears, or else I'm just going to waste my time and waste everybody else's time and piss my family off. So RDAP is life-changing. That doesn't mean you're going to know that till you get there. So even if your only reason to take it is to get the time off, as long as you have a substance abuse problem, that's good enough. You'll learn the rest when you get in there. But getting into the program or qualifying for the program is half the battle. Depending on your sentence duration is when you get to the prison, when the program starts. These are moving parts that your attorney is going to have no idea how to deal with, that we've probably helped at least at this point 500 people get into the program that wouldn't have got into it due to a technicality like what we're talking about right now. These are the moving parts that we're talking about.
Yeah, you got to time it. You got like a 10-month window that you're supposed to, if you get the 6 months off and the halfway house, but they're only going to give you 4 months halfway house because you're not going to be there. You're not there long enough to get the 6. And that small
4
little
months
window
is minimum. You have to do 4 months of halfway house. It's required, or you can't qualify for the program.
Right, because you got to do the TDAP or the aftercare, which you can do from home confinement, but you still got to do it on the outside, and you got to do it before your release date, which people don't understand.
Correct. That's why 24-month sentence really turns into you have no time to waste. If you get to prison, it doesn't start for a month and a half to 2 months. By the time you finish your prison sentence with your good time, there's not enough time left to do the 4 months of halfway house, which disqualifies you from the sentence reduction. And it's something that could have been avoided by doing your homework earlier on.
Yeah. I also tell people with gun charges, take the RDAP, you'll get 6 months halfway house because they got a 2-year sentence you'll at least get 6 months halfway house and you get 4 months good time.
More.
Or even more. And there's at least 10 months you go home early with your gun charge. So out of a 2-year sentence, you're doing just a little more than half. Plus the RDAP.
Not to mention, the unit's cleaner, quieter, more respect.
Yeah, the RDAP. So I was at Florence, Colorado at the camp RDAP. I was told our RDAP was so easy. I mean, they never wrote you up for anything. Maybe once a month they search the lockers, but I understand some RDAPs are really tough. You take a spoon out of the chow hall and they find that in your locker, and it's like, and you're getting a pull up and you got to go in front of everybody. Our pull-ups were we pre-planned our pull-ups. They say, hey, tomorrow I got to do 2 pull-up, guys. Can I get you for your shirt not tucked in? And I want to get you for walking on the rocks. And they go, okay.
Guys, don't listen to what Sean's saying right now. If you go to Coleman and try that, they'll pull you up for manipulating. That was a big, people tried to do that. They tried to do staged pull-ups, and oh my God, when it backfired, It's like watching the show Big Brother. It's like watching, you have these alliances that are together until they're not. Until somebody gets caught for doing something else. And just remember, most of you that are in trouble right now, somebody might have told on you in a conspiracy. Yeah. Everybody's funds. Nobody, I'm never going to tell on nobody. Well, you're found out real quick that everybody tells. So when you do these staged pull-ups, Florence, Colorado, though, it was the RDAP coordinators there didn't give a shit. You go to Coleman and you try to do that. I mean, you come walking out of the chow hall with a sugar packet. you're not going to get removed from the program, but you will get pulled up. And if you repeat the same behavior over and over again, which I guess, what would that behavior be? Thinking the laws don't matter to you.
The RSA, rational self-analysis. What was that?
Basically, there's different ideas there. So if you're taking a packet of sugar knowing you're not supposed to, you're basically thinking entitlement. There you go. So being entitled, if you get pulled up your first time, you're in phase 1, no big deal. But if you're in phase 3 and getting ready to graduate and you're taking chicken or a sugar packet out of the chow hall, you might be sitting in prison a little bit longer if you're at Coleman Low. But you want to go into this thing with the mindset that RDAP is not going to be laxed and relaxed and laid back. So Coleman was tough. Coleman was a very, very tough spot to do the program at, which for me, it was something I drastically needed in my life, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we were tough in other ways. We did reality checks where a guy would put a chair in the middle of the room, 100 guys sitting around, or 99 guys, and you're in the chair in the middle, and 10 people get on the mic and they call you on your shit, and they got down. Like, I mean, they just, once in a while they'd even go as far as to say, I saw you on a cell phone. And that's not good, but the RDAP staff let that slide because it was a process.
Right. Oh shit.
You never know.
You get caught with a cell phone at Coleman. It's like the ninjas with the assassin swords come out. You're getting your head cut off, and you're definitely going to the shoe on that one.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Well, normally you go to the shoe at Florence, you go right to the shoe unless you got 0 points, maybe. But tell me, at Coleman, do you got to join a gang? Showing paperwork, sitting at the right tables, TV rooms, with color. How's all that work?
So it's pretty laid back, similar to a camp. When I got there, I knew nothing about prison, other than what I've seen on TV. And I don't look like a drug dealer, or at least I don't think I look like a drug dealer or a gangbanger. So when I got there, they asked me, they're like, hey, where are you from? What did you do? And I said, well, I'm from West Palm Beach, and I don't want to talk about what I did. So he walked off, and another white guy came up to me and, what's your name? Where you're from? What'd you do? Well, same thing. This is where I'm from. I don't want to talk about what I did. Well, this happened a couple times. And then the original guy, Rick, came back around to me. And he's like, look, man, you fuck little kids? I was like, wait, what? And he's like, you don't want to talk about what you did. And usually that's because either you told on a bunch of people or, you're a pedophile. Remember, in camps, sex offenders can't go to camps.
Right.
And being my first time ever getting in trouble, I had camp points, but I had an open detainer, I had an open case still, which prevented me from going to a camp. So it put me at a low. So I didn't really fit in as far as your typical viewing of what somebody looked like. So when they're telling me this, I asked me if I did this with little kids, I'm freaking out kind of. And I'm like, no. They're like, well, you need to show us some paperwork because you don't want to talk about your crime. And usually there's a reason for that. So I had to go get a copy of my J&C, judgment and committal, which basically showed my charge for conspiracy to distribute. And once I showed, now normally I wouldn't have had to show that if I just would have said, yeah, I'm here for conspiracy. But because I didn't want to talk about it, it creates some suspicion with the other white guys. And there was no real politics. I mean, most of the white guys hung out with the white guys. Most of the black guys hung out with the black guys. There were some people that bunked together that were, black and white or Mexican and white or whatever. But for the most part, each kind of stuck to their own. It's just kind of a prison thing. Even at the chow hall and the TV rooms, I learned real quick about midway through, well, maybe a quarter into my sentence, that I just got along better with a lot of the brothers in there. They were more into the working out. They were more into kind of cutting it up and having a good time. They were a little bit more upbeat and positive, where unfortunately, a lot of the white guys that were in there were more into still trying to use a lot of drugs. There was a lot of drug activity in Coleman, a lot of meth going around, a lot of spice. And unfortunately, a lot of the white population, that's what they were doing in there. I'm not going to say all of it, but so I stayed away from a lot of that. And I ended up hanging out and spending a lot of times hanging out with the brothers in there, doing sports, taking classes. And for me, it was an overwhelmingly very, very positive experience, which pushed me outside of my comfort zone, took me outside of my element, and really kind of showed me how to not judge a book by its cover, because you never know who you're going to learn something from or what environment you're going to take a lesson from.
No, I hear you. I hung around with all kinds of different races, but I found like I found the squares. Okay, I went to law library, and I meet those people there, and you know what I mean. I squared like the non-thugs, like the black collar, white collar guys. I'd hang out with them.
Come on, Sean, you were the biggest thug there. We know.
Hey, you know what? Talking about there's a new thing, and there's these 19 ex NBA or retired NBA players. Have you heard they all just got indicted and arrested for doing healthcare fraud? Have you heard about this?
No, I haven't.
So there's 19 of them, and you want to talk about telling on each other. And these are NBA players, so it just happened 3 days ago. Google it, NBA fraud, and so they've been collecting money from healthcare. From their healthcare association, they've been putting fraudulent papers in, like, I had to have my tooth pulled and it cost me, $2,200, and they put in 10 letters. And anyways, so it's big time money. It's like $2 billion worth of fraud. 19 of them just got arrested. So they're all going to be like those guys. They're going to be telling on each other. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
You'll Google that NBA fraud. The story came and went so quick. It's like, I don't know if the press is trying to bury it, but because
NBA doesn't want to be attached to none of that, I'm sure.
They don't want to be attached to it. Yeah.
Hey, most of the business that comes to me right now, a big portion of it is a lot of the SBA fraud. People that did the PPP loans and defrauding the SBA for the disaster relief money, thinking they were going to get away with it because it was so easy to get. And I've probably been getting 1 to 2 clients a month just from that industry alone. So it's there's so much fraud going on with the time we're in right now. People are so desperate. Businesses are failing. Families are struggling. So hopefully this funk that we're in this economy kind of turns itself around here in the next few months or the next year, because we're going down a real dark path.
Yeah. Hey, let me ask you this. Have you ever heard of somebody self-surrendering to a medium or a penitentiary?
Yes, it doesn't happen often. We actually had a client. We have had several surrender to mediums. We actually had one. It was either the beginning of this year or the very end of last year who self-surrendered to, actually it was Florence Penitentiary.
So were they out on like a $5 million bond or
no, they were out. You know what it was is the crime was not a violent crime, but they've had so much crime in their past that their points were so high. But the amount of time that they were facing, that if they didn't, I mean, they took a plea deal, obviously. If they would have, they just would have been crazy. And they thought they were going to get remanded at sentencing. And again, this has a lot to do with the work that we do, is really trying to convey to that judge what's different about you versus the average person that goes in front of this judge that, on a similar playing field. And really, the accountability and the family support. A lot of cases you would think that's going to be a being remanded at sentencing, but he was given self-surrender. He was actually given 120 days of self-surrender to a penitentiary. He just went in.
Wow. Okay. All right. Because normally people call me and they're wondering if they're going to meet him. And I said, I don't think he'd be talking to me, because people go to mediums and penitentiaries are usually detained the whole time while they're waiting sentencing. But I guess it can happen, huh?
Yeah, and it's frustrating because people don't know how to calculate their custody level, and in calculating your custody level, it's not in your PSR normally. It has more to do with, your past crimes, your age. It has to do with so many different factors and you ask your attorney to calculate your custody level, and they'll start telling you your offense level or your criminal history, but they kind of ignore the custody level because they don't know how to calculate it sometimes. So again, if you're lost, use the link in the video or give Sean a call or give myself a call, and I'll be happy to help you come up with a rough estimate of what your custody level is. And the beautiful thing about self-surrender is it knocks 3 points off of your custody level when you self-surrender. So if you're right on the brink right there, that self-surrender can make all the difference in your custody level.
Yeah, that's true. A guy that I know, he just got sentenced last week, and he just said, I'm going to get it over. I'm going to just, as soon as they sentence me, I'm going to tell them to take me right now. And I said, you don't want to do that. He had about 12 or 13 points because I did the 11 questions, your age, your GED, your background. Anyways, we figured he had around 12 or 13 points. And I said, if you self-surrender, that'll get you in a camp. You'll be at 10 or 11 points. But if you let him take you, you don't get that, and you'll go to a low. So he took my advice, and they gave him a week to turn himself in to the marshals, but he's going to go to a camp now. So that's good.
Yeah, a lot of times self-surrendering to a marshal won't give you the custody drop either. It's got to be to the actual facility.
Oh, really? Because he wanted to do the marshals. Oh, I might have given him bad advice, and I told
it's not necessarily bad advice, because it would be bad advice, Sean, if there was an abundance of good advice out there. The fact that you're giving this guy like any advice at all based on the fuckery of the federal system is better than probably would have gotten anywhere else. But yes, normally self-surrendering to the marshals doesn't count, because you're technically, when you go into the marshal's custody, they're probably going to bring you to a local county somewhere where you're still going to go through that whole kind of a potential diesel therapy type of a system. So, hindsight, right? It's 2020.
Yeah. But, this guy did not want to wait 2 months to turn himself in. He said, I got to get it over with now. I don't care. I'll do a week, but that's it. I want to go.
I would like to hear his comments as we speak.
Yeah.
Wishing he had waited. There's no fun sitting in a county or going from, a bus trip or a plane trip from prison to prison. It's not a vacation. You're usually shackled up, handcuffed up, versus self-surrendering directly to your final destination. It's like you walk in, you never touch handcuffs. They take a little DNA sample, do a little drop and cough, dress you out, and you're off to the camp, whether it's going to be a dormitory or cubicle settings. There's no jail cells. It's prison is prison. You're away from your friends, you're away from your family. But if you guys go through this and you really do put your mind at the forefront of, I am going to do what I got to do, and I'm here, I have no choice, I got to be here. So instead of bitching and crying about it all day and how unfair the system is, really just kind of using this as an experience that you'll never get an opportunity to do this again. Your cell phone is gone, your internet's gone, you've got peace of mind, you've got time to read, you've got time to reflect, you've got time to exercise, you got all this time to do these things. And I remember talking to my kids and my girlfriend when she got out before me, and it was like they're all in the real world working, and they're like, I was like, yeah, I'm going to yoga this morning, I'm going to go do this. And it's like, it really sounds like you're on a vacation, to the point where they were slightly irritated by kind of all of the luxuries that I had going on. But I needed to put my mind through this in order to, I haven't had an opportunity to have this type of break of peace of mind in the longest time. To some points, there's been days where, like, I'll put my music on, I'll go walk, and I'll pretend like I'm back on Coleman's track, walking with my radio on, listening to, a playlist, trying to get my day motivated, because the real world, the real world's unforgiving. It's an unforgiving. You got to pay your bills. You got to do it. Prison, you wake up and your day's planned for you. Your only choices are, what activity am I going to partake in? You've got people around you that are good people. You've got this ability to, like, make friends and do all these things, where in the free world, people are hustling and bustling. So I know it sucks right now, and I don't know if you felt like this, Sean, but pre-trial, or at least for me, the whole pre-trial phase until I self-surrendered, that was kind of the real prison experience. Prison itself.
That was the hardest part for me. Hardest part. Yeah. Hardest part. Now, this guy I think he's going in Tuesday. I told him, you're going to get shackled, sent to Oklahoma City, be on Con Air. He's got a year and a day. And he's all, I don't care. I'll go through all that. I go, you don't want to go through all that. He might not even make it. He might sit, by the time he gets out of Oklahoma, he might not have that much time left. They might not even transfer him to a federal prison. Yeah, I said it's going to be 2 or 3 months. You might be in Oklahoma City, and it's going to be hell. You were, but he wants to get it over with. Well, you can only lead a horse to the water. You can't do much more than that. I hope he's watching. I'm going to call you tonight. You know who you are. Good. Yeah, let him know, man, because it's not too late. He hasn't. I mean, maybe it's not too late. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. So I didn't know he won't get the 3 points. The marshals don't give you that. So nope. He thought he'd go to Pahrump because he's out of Las Vegas, and Pahrump's not even on the BOP website. Have you heard of this Pahrump place? Yeah, he's not going to go there though. Vegas, he's either going to hit Sheridan or Lompoc.
he'd be so much better off self-surrendering. He's going to hate himself.
I know. I tried to tell him.
Yeah. Well, tell him again. Tell him a third time. Maybe he needs to hear it one more time.
I think he might have called you. I'll just put him on. His name's Gavin. Do you remember a guy named Gavin? I think he gave you $100 on Venmo or something.
Very, very Oh, yes, I do. Gavin.
That's the guy. We'll put him on blast. Yes. You can get when you get out of prison, you can come back and get back at us for putting you on blast.
Yeah, I'm looking him up. Yeah, there he is.
That's the guy. So he got a year and a day though. He got a year and a day.
When is he trying to turn himself in?
I think it's Monday or Tuesday. I need to call him. It could be tomorrow. I need to call him.
I'm texting him right now. Don't turn yourself into the marshals. Yep, I know you're talking about.
Yeah, the photographer guy.
Yep.
If he told you about that part, yeah.
Yeah, nice guy.
Nice guy. He's gonna do great when he gets there. I told him you're gonna be fine. Just be careful.
Well, if he gets there,
yeah.
On such short timers like this, if they don't self-surrender, they sometimes just leave them because they're only 10 months. Give them a little halfway house, 3 or 4 months halfway house. Sometimes it's not even worth paying the money. They sit in a county experience the entire time.
Ooh.
Which is completely different from what you and I experienced.
Yeah. See, I'm learning things right now. Thanks. I didn't know all that. Yeah.
Well, I shot him a text. Maybe he'll shoot you a call after this.
Okay. All righty. Yeah. Well, we've been talking a while, Dan. I don't want to keep you. I know you're a busy guy. Hey, how's Jenny? Is she still working for you?
Yeah, Jenny's still kicking ass. She's doing what she's supposed to be doing. She's a big reason of why we are where we are. Jenny, Shelly, Tom.
And Tom, yeah.
Yep, a few other people that you guys don't know that are behind the scenes and doing marketing and things like this. But we're always working. Sometimes it seems like, oh, what is Dan doing for these people? But if you saw the work that we do on these client files and the scopes and the services that we've created that didn't exist, that's the hard thing about doing this, or at least when we first started doing this. It wasn't like there was I'm going to go be a realtor and there's a start to finish ABZ guide how to become a realtor. Becoming a prison consultant, we're doing the things that we do that make a difference.
Yeah, there wasn't life coaching, things like the other ones. The other guys don't do.
We have a chemical dependency professional that if somebody maybe didn't disclose their substance abuse on their PSR out of fear or scared or embarrassment, we have somebody that we attach to them that can help them get in the program after the fact with a chemical dependency evaluation. So having life coaches and chemical dependency professionals, there's a lot that goes into this to try to put everybody's ducks in a row and get the I's dotted and T's crossed. It's not a cookie cutter program. And I wish it was, because then we could for everybody just wave a magic wand and poof, be done. But sometimes there's a lot of, and when it doesn't work out, it's as much as it affects the client, it hurts us just as much, because I know what it's like going through this. And for me to have not been able to get into RDAP or miss out on something like that, these are things that can ultimately put you back into your family's grasp a lot sooner. So don't leave it up to chance. Don't think you have it all figured out, because complacency is the devil in disguise. When you think you got things all figured out, that's when the rug gets yanked out from underneath you. And you have to be willing to put in the work when nobody else is.
Dan, I used to, watch your YouTube channels when you did the little live chat while I was on pretrial. And I used to think to myself, man, when I get out of prison, I couldn't wait to get back on your channel and tell everybody I got out, and now when I go live once a week, but I started a support group now. I've been doing it about a month, and I have 4, 5, 8 people on Zoom, and then, and it's a support group for people going through this. And all this is because stuff you inspired. So now, because I know what it's like, you feel so alone when you're out there. You might have family and loved ones and a wife and kids. They still don't understand what you're going through. Nobody knows. So now I'm trying to bring that whole community of people together, and we can support each other. You know what I mean? And and people thank me, but they tell me I help them, but they're helping me. Whenever somebody calls me, I'm not helping them. They're helping me. They don't get it. I'm 57 years old. I'm just out of prison. What do I got to give back to the world? So when you call me, you give me purpose in life. And Dan, this is all because of your channel. If I didn't find you, I wouldn't be talking to you right now, and I wouldn't have my own channel, and I wouldn't be helping other people. So for you helping me, you've helped others through me and through all these other people. I just want you to know that, Dan.
Well, I appreciate it, brother. And I've been watching you since you've come out, and I know you wanted to do one of these videos when you first came home. And, you know, a part of me, you know, I wanted to, but I also wanted to wait and make sure that, you know, this was something that was, and a lot of people do things in the beginning and then they don't follow through, and they're like, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And then they're gone with the wind. So last thing I wanted to do was, you know, put you out there, and then you know, that I don't want you to have that type of weight on your mind, but you've been doing this for over a year now.
Yeah. Yeah. I got about 200 videos. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. You're killing it, man. You're doing exactly what I wish everybody would do, because it's like you said, it's not about the money. It's about, it helps you just as much as it helps them. It's beyond therapeutic, but at the end of the day, it's okay to take a pat on the back and realize that you are helping people, you know, and it seems like you struggle with that a little bit, and you don't want to, you know, part of, you know, because it does put, it puts a weight on you. It does put responsibility on you. And it makes you think twice before you might want to do something that you shouldn't be doing, which you and I were talking about a little bit earlier. But I'm telling you, it's okay to take the pat on the back, because you're doing the right thing, and you might fuck up and you might make a mistake, Sean, but you just get back up on the bike and you keep going. You know, it's not about being perfect. It's about learning from the mistakes and being accountable, and just keep doing what you're doing. You know, just be better than you were yesterday. That's all. It should be our only goal, is to be a little bit better tomorrow than we were today. And I always tell people, starts with getting up and making your bed. Do something as simple as that. Create new habits.
I learned that in prison. Yeah. Thank you, Dan. I'm still in therapy, but, you know, I have a tendency to beat myself up. And that goes back to my childhood, and I'm working on it, guys. Once a week.
Work in progress.
I have a therapist, and the government pays for it. Yeah, I got one more year of therapy, and we'll see. But yeah, you know, I read my comments and people just thank me, and you know, I read them, and it just makes my day. You know, and I know you get them on your channel too, and I try to answer everybody's comments back. I'm just amazed at people. You know, I get one bad comment for every 80 good ones, so you can't beat that.
Not at all. Not at all.
Yeah. All right, Dan, I don't want to take any more of your time. I'll fix that little part in this video. And if you ever need me for anything, Dan, you call me, whatever I can do to help you. And, you know, enjoy Florida. And
amen. Yeah, we'll return the favor and get you on. We'll get you on the channel here in a short period of time.
All righty. All right. Hey, you guys can't vote in Florida, felons, right? We can vote in California.
Yeah. No, yes, Florida is one of the few that you can. I reinstated. I voted. Okay.
All right. Well, I already know. I voted for the same guy you did, and I'll let the rest of the world guess.
Yep. Unfortunately.
Here we go. All right, Dan. Thanks a lot, man. Love you, Dan.
You too.